Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools for self governance. I am live today with the amazing congressional condit and the man of the hour, Jacob Kelts. He is running for Congress in the great state of Michigan. What up, Jake?
Oh, what up, Kareem? How's she going?
Good. I like the Canadian accent.
Yeah, it really confuses people sometimes because they think I'm Canadian. But no, I'm actually from Georgia.
Yeah.
But I'm been living here in Michigan like 8 years now, and I love it. And I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
You're from Georgia, and you're hoping to go to Ragnarok. I like all the North mythology, so that's pretty cool. Thor, Odin, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, but I actually rock the Mjolnir all the time.
Yes, and I'm digging the background. All right, so let's get into it. I know you want to call Nancy Pelosi some names, which to me is pretty fun. The only problem is she'll probably be too drunk or trying to rig the stock market in her favor to do so. But I'm actually curious. You've liked all my posts. You've probably been the most dedicated dude on Facebook. So I thank you for that. Thank you for liking all my ANCAP content and my other crazy memes. But I am curious now, if someone broke it down just like, okay, Jake, spare on time, what are your 3 top issues or what are your main issues that you want to get done? And how are you working towards them?
Instead of protecting what little Second Amendment rights we have left, I would love to restore the Second Amendment to its former glory days, pre-NFA. I'd also do anything I can to dial back the state, like vote no on anything that expands the government or expands the money they want to spend, because they're already 30 trillion in debt. They don't need to spend any more money, And I guess the third issue right now would be to tackle the inflation by ending the Federal Reserve.
Nice. And in the Fed, we can get all the libertarians just go into a room and start screaming in the Fed, which is my favorite thing to do. And actually, that's my number one issue, because the way I see it is you knock off the Fed, well, then the military-industrial complex falls because they're like, sorry, we can't print money to, subsidize you. Oh, the medical or big pharma, medical industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, falls. Oh, then the prison industry, and that's actually kind of fun. It's saying, hey, the empire is going to fall over, and it's a peaceful way of doing it. Granted, yeah, there'd be some economic instability, but markets always self-regulate, and I think we'd figure it out. So let's start with the Second Amendment stuff. I usually go for the hard questions because people are like, oh, can you own a pistol? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty easy. Or like, hey, let's just legalize weed. I'm like, no. If we're going to get on air and talk about stuff, let's talk about the big issues. Should felons be able to own guns?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, once you serve your time, you can fucking have all your rights back. Isn't that what it's supposed to be, eh?
Yes. But there are people who fall on that. They're like, well, I don't know. These people did bad things. And one thing I say is not all felonies are violent. But even if there are bad people usually don't get guns, I don't know, the conventional way. They usually go around every, what you would call like traditional or, conventional method of doing it. They're not going to do a background check. They're going to go find a friend, a family member, break into somewhere. You can use their interwebs. And there's things like Luddies. People don't know what a Luddy is. You can actually go and build one.
Big too.
Funny thing.
The meme going around I've seen since AK guy recreated the Shinzo Abe assassination gun is big tube.
Oh,
that's all you need. Big tube.
How do they do it? 3D printer?
No, he did it like handmade with hardware store stuff, and the trigger was an electrical igniter.
Nice.
And it was like a black powder shotgun with ball bearings.
That's wild. Was he an electrical?
Yeah, so I mean, you can have all the gun laws you want. Someone's gonna put some shit together and build a gun. They do it in prison all the time.
Oh yeah, they do it in prison. That's the thing people don't get. And there's 3D printers now. There's 3D printers. Build a Luddy. You can find someone who's an engineer and just say, hey, I want this, and you throw money at people, especially now with inflation. It's like, hey, can you be like, okay, what do you want? Like, and there are people even, who you can get a kit, and you could get somebody to get you a kit and build it. So that's what don't get. They think everybody thinks, oh, if you just ban it at Walmart or wherever, at a sporting goods store, then or Dunham's, all of a sudden criminals are just like, oh man, I was gonna do something nefarious, but I just give up. I'm gonna go home and sit and chill. So that's
I couldn't get in line for the cocaine vending machine at the strip club, so I guess I'm gonna go buy it from some stranger who cut it with fentanyl.
That is what happens, unfortunately. My like big one is also ending the drug war, where I'm going to. I imagine that's definitely on your list. But with the Second Amendment, a lot of people say, "Hey, can I own a tank? Like if I wanted to own an Abrams or a Blackhawk, should that be cool?"
Yeah, dude.
Nice.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet the ammunition is expensive as fuck. So good luck.
Yeah. Well,
it's like the Chris Rock bit. We don't have to ban guns; just make bullets $1,000 each.
Yeah. I mean, with inflation, that might happen, which is a funny thing.
Yeah. You're going to question if you want to shoot somebody then. Like, oh, it's not worth it. I better talk this out.
Or, well, for me, I enjoy fist fighting, so we could also do that. But
the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, do it medieval style. I love these things where people are like, oh, I'd like to go back in time. It was so much more peaceful. You just see knights like, fighting people in some medieval battle. I'm like, no, I'm good.
I hope you're all right with like lice and every other imaginable gross thing that could happen to the human body.
Yeah, I can't imagine dying from a lack of penicillin is very fun. But not to get super, super off topic. I think the interesting thing is like people don't know an M1 Abrams needs two people to operate it. It's very uncomfortable. It's not like oh, I get a tank. Like you need a place to actually put it, because you can't just. And then you need to know how to maintain it. You need to know how to operate it. It's not. People think it's like a Honda Civic. Some people, especially on the left, they're just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. You just turn on your Blackhawk and go. I'm like, dude, this isn't a simulator. This actually takes some acquired knowledge. So the funny thing I think is a lot of people underestimate what it takes to actually maintain some of this equipment and stuff. And people don't think the Second Amendment stuff through. They're just like, oh, gun is bad. It's scary. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is they say they'll ban assault rifles. I'm like, okay, if you can define what that is in physical, tangible terms, yeah, not just something that's scary.
I don't know, but when I go into Dunham Sporting Goods down the road here in Lapeer, Michigan, and buy an AK-47 in the rack, it just says rifles.
Yeah.
It doesn't say assault weapons. It just says rifle.
That's the funny thing. No one can explain what that is. It's kind of like all of these bills they put out. No one can explain what's in them. And when you find out what's in them, it's always bad. Like Inflation Reduction Act makes it worse. Patriot Act is a way for them to spy on people who are literally patriotic or ANCAPs or libertarians or classical.
They just expanded that list too,
Yeah, hey, I'm on a list. Woo! I'm awesome.
First time?
Maybe they saw the icon in the top right, which is a funny thing. So yeah, I think you're like going to be extremely good for that because nobody, even I know what people are going to say. Oh, we're getting our red wave or we're controlled opposition wave is what I call it. People are not going to like that. But if you're not voting out the special interests, the bureaucrats, and the intelligence agencies, some things might change. But they've had Republican-controlled everything, House, Senate, President, and gun rights kept, getting suppressed. They kept pushing it further back. People like Ronald Reagan's my hero, and they have that stupid picture with him in the cowboy hat. I'm like, he banned machine guns. What? How is he your conservative hero? Like,
yeah, that's really fun at the family gatherings when someone brings up, oh, I love Reagan. I'm like, you mean the bastard that banned machine guns? Fuck him.
I mean, I'll say this: his foreign policy is better than like pretty much all the other presidents. Like people ask the best president of my time, and since I was technically born in '88, I can't say Reagan. So, woo. His foreign policy wasn't horrible, speaking like that. So that's good. So we covered the Second Amendment. I think it'd be super solid on that. The way I look at it is this. Somewhat bad people are going to have guns. While guns are dangerous and you need to actually know what you're doing and spend time and play with them and make sure that you follow basic rules like don't point at anything you're not willing to shoot. Good people, the quote unquote law abiding citizens need to have guns. So A, we can defend against tyranny, and B, we can have a well-regulated militia like the founders wanted, and we can defend against people who are nefarious. So it's a fact of life. Someone's going to have the guns. It might as well be people who have a sound mind and who want to do the right thing. So I'm glad you're actually 100% on that. So that is awesome. Now, you said knocking down spending, right?
Oh, yeah.
Billions of dollars. So I don't know how much we've given Ukraine right now, but to me, it just zeros on paper. Like at this point, you might as well just like pull out your Monopoly game and just give it to them. And it seems kind of funny to me. They gave, I don't even know what the number is for Ukraine, but
Republicans just recently.
It's just like 15 billion. Like, okay, well, like it just kind of, I agree with the Babylon Bee. Just put it on a subscription. Like, okay, 10 billion. Like, okay, take it or leave it. Just, sign up on the thing. Like, and it's funny. Zelensky's buying mansions and all these people are buying mansions. I know people say, oh, you're just like Putin. Dude, I'm an anarchist. I can't even, I even get in fights with minarchists. I'm like, okay. I agree with you on most things, but on Constitution Day, I'm posting Lysander Spooner and going super. Like, I'm like, hey, look, Somalia, let's see if we can achieve social cooperation the way they did feasibly. So yeah, that's a thing I'm curious about is you're saying ending all this stuff. It's funny to me. Florida could be fixed. You could fix all the problems and the destruction in Florida, at least most of it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the aid we sent to Ukraine. And Mississippi doesn't have clean water. Send that. People say Flint, Michigan. You're in Michigan, so I got to ask: is the water?
I used to live in Flint actually, so I moved here right as the water crisis was happening, and people in high school were like, "You're crazy moving to a place with poison water." I'm like,
"You mean everywhere? Because they're putting fluoride pretty much in it, unless you have a well." But yeah. I have a filter, so I recommend people get a filter. And
I have wells and filters out here in Lapeer.
Probably why you're an ANCAP and you haven't been like brainwashed. But
yeah,
your pineal gland's not calcified. But I'm interested to know, is Flint still that? Because I think Flint still doesn't have the water thing completely fixed. Most people tell me that. I don't know if that's true.
It's not completely fixed yet, but right before I moved, like in my neighborhood, they were out replacing pipes, so they're working on it. They're getting there. It's just not done yet.
So, yeah.
And the fucked up thing is they did it to save money because they were getting Detroit water. And they're like, let's quit paying this tax money to Detroit and let's go back to our old water that we haven't maintained in 50 years. And people had rust-colored water coming out of their fucking sinks,
Yeah, and with Adolf Whitmer, you're getting Detroit crime too. So that must be nice. I'm sure all those criminals are law-abiding and they're getting their background check. So with that being said,
or they're having their buddy go in and buy it for them.
Probably.
There was a shooting a while back ago. There was a big uproar because he went in the store with his buddy and picked out the gun, and his buddy did all the paperwork for him. And they were in the store together.
Imagine that. That. Which is that's the wildest thing to me. People just think like, oh yeah, just ban something. It will even conservatives on the other side, even when they make good arguments about like, okay, I think this is immoral. I think abortion's immoral. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think banning it will stop people I don't think banning ever stops deviant behavior at all. What you do is
if anything, you'll probably amplify it and make people want to do it more.
Yes. I'm not going to lie. Even sometimes I'm tempted to do something just because someone banned me from it. Not because of any other reason. It makes the incentive higher. Like, oh, you can't do, like, why can't I do that? Even if it's
as a teenager, I was like, oh, I can't do that now, huh? Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
All right, now watch me do that.
Yeah, like I don't like smoking or anything, but if someone's like, you can't smoke, you can't do that. I remember it got so bad in high school, people like put in a dip and then they want to, get rid, and then they put it in the water fountain. I'm like, I'm going to knock somebody out. They banned, and then here's a funny thing. They banned chewing gum before that. Everybody chewed gum. They said you can chew gum. It was cool. But then dipping and people would just walk around with a dip for no reason. I'm like, you don't even chew. You're just trying to break a rule because it's banned. So that's a crazy thing to me. But to get it back on topic, the spending is completely out of control. I don't even believe in taking taxes at all, even sales tax. I believe in doing it voluntarily. I believe actually, if you could, the best thing to do would take something like Patreon, like where you say, okay, I want to have these, creator, I like this creator, I like this whatever, this blog post, whatever. That I would like to do that, like fire department, police, or private security. This. That's how I'd like to see it. Now, granted, I'm not a central planner, I can't do that, but
Yeah.
I'll just ask, like, if we are going to steal money, and there is still stolen money circulating around, they can print out of nothing. How can you at least direct it to some problems here in America?
Mm-hmm.
B, how do you actually plan on like stopping inflation if there's not enough people to audit the Federal Reserve?
Right, and like he's talking about like the crowdfunding stuff. I've joked for years now about RoadFundMe and just set it up by county, and people can donate voluntarily to RoadFundMe. They already do it for GoFundMe for the dumbest shit,
Yeah. I'm not even hating on GoFundMe because people have legitimate family emergencies. People die, get cancer,
There's plenty of legitimate stuff on GoFundMe, but there's also like people that are like, oh, fund my trip to Europe,
Yeah, which I'm not even mad about that. Like, okay, fine. If people fund your trip to Europe, they fund your trip to Europe. I think it's kind
good for you. How'd that go too?
Yeah, I think that's kind of weird when someone's like, hey, my son or something, and it's like, I want to have, a drink on the beach and wherever. So that'd be interesting to see. But would you try to back the dollar, even though I'm not saying it's the ideal currency and they're trying to do this CBDC? Would you try to back the dollar by gold, cryptocurrency?
Preferably, yeah. Bring back the gold standard. That'd be like the best bet, short of abolishing the Fed, wouldn't it? If we could go back to gold and then get rid of the Fed, we'd be gravy.
You know how else and I'll get your opinion. One way you could tackle inflation is, as far as I'm concerned, cryptocurrency, because most tokens are either set, like you have a certain amount, or they're deflationary, meaning they burn and they actually raise up in value. And you can stake them, which gives you passive income, much like interest. To me, people are like, why are you so excited about this? I'm like, this is how money should actually work. Not to say each ecosystem is perfect. There's a lot of dumb stuff there. There's people just like, my cat Inu, I like chicken token because I read stuff. But what do you think about cryptocurrency stuff if you ever get to Washington, D.C.?
I'd like to keep the government out of it, but I was on Robinhood the other day just checking the stuff I'm holding, and they made a USD crypto, and I was like, well, it has begun. There it goes. We're going to this cashless society. It's begun.
I don't think it's going to work. I think the elites always overplay their hand. And we can see that in foreign policy, the scary beer flu stuff. They always overplay their hand. So they're going to overplay their hand here. And then I think what's eventually going to happen is people are just going to have no interest in it, or a very, very small few, and it'll just flop. Like CNN Plus. I feel there'll be more people interested in CNN Plus than just this CBDC junk. That being said, I think what we can do is there's a lot of people who still are hostile to it, like, Sleepy Joe wants to write legislation. You could, get up there and make a speech and say, look, Sleepy Joe's trying to control your money, and here's why we need cryptocurrency. And actually, everybody's bad on it that I've heard. Everybody does stupid stuff. I don't like. Hillary said we need to, look into it or whatever. And
didn't she say it could destabilize the nation?
Yeah, she did. Which I'm like, oh, geez, that's terrible. Where? Like, I'll buy that crypto.
Right? Yeah, man. I'll buy 100 of those cryptos. Give me those coins, bro.
Just be on exchange. Give me every last one. And then
shut up and take my money.
Deep State Don, as I call him, said it was a scam and the dollar is good. So I'm like, okay, you can leave. And then a lot of senators have said bad stuff about it, or they're unaware. The only one who said something remotely okay, and I hate his foreign policy, he's bad. He was a terrible president. As bad as Obama said, it's like a Swiss bank account, which I think if more people knew that, even if you got in Congress and didn't pass anything, but you're like, look, this is a Swiss bank account. Really, this actually does work in that way. Well, then you get people interested, and a lot of people are still a bit skeptical on it. So I think that's one way of combating inflation, provided you actually have the crypto there. And if not crypto, if not gold, just physical assets. Like let's back the dollar by. It could be lumber. It could be like literal.
I don't know about you, but I've been stocking up on water, food, and ammo. Like I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah, I am getting a lot of that myself.
Mhm.
You can get a rifle. With that being said, you're talking about auditing the Federal Reserve. That I 100% agree with. Did you get inspired? I'm guessing by Ron Paul. Is that who got you on the and the Fed train?
Yeah, and it was like when I was 16. I watched this documentary by Aaron Russo called "America: Freedom to Fascism," and it's all about the IRS and the Federal Reserve. And that was the first time I saw Ron Paul talk about it. And then I saw him in Reno earlier this year and talking about the same thing. And I was just like, 16-year-old me can die happy. I've been in a room full of libertarians chanting "in the Fed" while Ron Paul is telling us to end the Fed.
Yep. That's why I went to Florida, because they're like, let's come to Yale. I'm like, think about it. They're like, Ron Paul will be there. I'm like, okay. I think at a certain point, they're like, Ron Paul's in Yemen. I'm like, I could shoot a Saudi fighter down, I think, how
I
hard
can take out some pirates and shit to get over there.
How hard can it be to use a javelin, right? So, and since Jake's going to help us with our Second Amendment rights, we can get a javelin and try it out. Just make sure you do some aiming practice in your backyard before.
Preferably somewhere with about a good 200-300 yards, maybe.
Yeah, someone's going to take some context too. I'm like, are you serious? So, with all that being said, that's super exciting, and I like all of that. With the drug war, I'm pretty sure, end all of it.
End all of it. It's got to go. I mean,
like a medical issue.
I joke about cocaine in vending machines, but I don't think that could be a very well regulated thing. But we should have that level of freedom where we could buy cocaine in vending machines.
Yeah. I hate to ask this question, but I've heard it so many times, and when people bring it up, I'm like, please, go away. I don't want to talk to you anymore. But what if someone builds, because everybody goes to like the craziest things when you're like, the state won't exist. I'm like, oh, roads won't exist. What if every country in the world who doesn't like us just invades or whatever? But what if someone builds or tries to build a meth lab next to someone's house post the end of the drug war? What do you say to that? I know it's a dumb question, but I am asking. I don't like it, but I'm curious.
I wouldn't like the idea of living next to a meth lab. I'd probably move. I would say, do that in a trailer out in the middle of nowhere, like Walter White. What's wrong with you? You a fucking animal?
Honestly,
smoke a cigarette and see what happens, bud.
Yeah, I agree with you. What I'd say is two things. One, I think I noticed it. Two, you could get a private security agency to tell them to leave. Three, let's assume a meth lab did blow up. That's a terrible tragedy. That's bad. Mm-hmm. Horrible. But the damage caused by the drug war is paramount. Millions of people in jail, no knock raids, things like, Breonna Taylor, stuff like that. And even if you're saying like, well, some of these people are justified, some not, I still say that the destruction caused by the drug war will outweigh anything. And I mean anything that results in it from, after we get rid of it. That's the consequentialist, and just looking and saying, look, this is bad, and there'll still be overdoses afterwards, but the situation won't be as bad.
Yeah. The guy who invented Tylenol is the same guy who invented heroin, and he worked for Pfizer.
Oh, hey. I hear they have...
I think you can look it up on the patents. The patents are like a week apart, I'm pretty sure. And it was the same guy.
Yeah. I hear they have another thing there that ain't too good either. But with that being said, I am curious, just one more thing about this. Definitely because we're talking a lot about Ross Ulbricht. Definitely, I know you're 100% free Ross, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm on board with free and Ross. So all I did wrong was make an internet page. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah. Are you familiar with what? And I'll throw one more thing. You familiar with what Portugal did with the drug war?
They decriminalized everything, I'm right, and all their ODs. Well, they had a spike in ODs. They eventually went down once people started using clean needles and getting safer drugs from the government, or something like that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want a government to do it in the American case. I would like CVS or something, because it creates jobs, right? That's all. Like create jobs.
And the medical marijuana has made the perfect blueprint. Dispensaries would be great for everything.
Yes, as long as we're not taxing them.
Yeah.
Problem. That's the problem here. They're like, we'll legalize weed, but we'll tax it. I'm like, oh, here we go again. Got some.
Yeah, right. Here we go again. Back to taxes.
We wanted to protect you from these bad drugs. Why are they bad? Oh, they're untaxed. My bad. My bad. That's what makes them bad. It's like that skit. So we covered those big points. Now, I know everybody is worried about what's happening with foreign policy. Let me just throw a couple foreign policy swingers at you. So, are you aware of Defend the Guard? How do you feel about it?
Defend the Guard, I am not aware of.
Okay. Let me make sure.
I would tell you my policy is isolation for foreign policy.
Yeah.
Limit trade with the outside world, bring the troops home, close the bases, stop our overseas wars. And, I mean, we got everything we need here, and we can use the jobs here.
Okay. Well, I'll just show you Defend the Guard real quick.
Right on.
It is an important piece of legislation. Even if people don't run for anything, you can let the people know running about it. That's how adamant I am. Like, look, people say like, I'm not running for anything for Defend the Guard. Why are you telling me about this legislation? Because you can tell someone who knows someone, even if you tell the dude who's bagging your groceries, maybe they'll tell someone who'll tell someone who'll tell someone. But basically, the legislation says prohibits a state's National Guard units from being deployed into active combat without a formal declaration of war by Congress, as provided by the U.S. Constitution. So I think anybody who's running for anything, even if it's city council, even if it's libertarian dog catcher, I'd like to let them know about it because they're in the political sphere some way. Even if they're not running for anything, I think it's good to know. So that.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna have to say I agree. I'm not down with sending National Guard overseas and without an official declaration of war.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have a cousin who's in the National Guard, and he's overseas right now.
Oh, wow.
And last I heard, he's on his way to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely, right?
So that actually, good segue. Are you familiar with what's going on in Yemen, and what do you think of the War Powers Act?
That's the U.S. is backing the Saudis to basically starve out the Yemen, and they're genociding the people right now, right?
Correct. And most people, you'll hear about Ukraine, which is a huge situation because of potential nuclear proliferation. That being said, if we take that out, like if we eventually say like, okay, he's not going to do it, or we come to a resolution, to me, this is the second biggest issue because they're starving people out. So yes, you're correct. As much as I don't like the UN, as much as I don't think anybody should look at any globalist stuff at all, the data seems to be okay on some things. And they do say it's the worst humanitarian crisis. And from what I can see, I probably agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. It's pretty fucking terrible.
So yeah,
and I mean, if I'm elected and it comes up to a vote to end the war in Yemen, I'm voting to end the war in Yemen. Nice. And as to Ukraine, my ancestors are Slavic, and the Slavic people have been fighting over land over there for thousands of years. I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. Why do we have to help one side or the other?
I don't think we have to help one side or the other, but I'll throw this with you. Since that's the biggest thing now, because NATO's terrible, I'm pretty sure you'd say get out of NATO. And even the newly elected Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, I said, look, she says she's anti-globalist and all that stuff. I kind of take a hard stance and say, if you are, you have to get out of NATO. It's kind of like me saying, well, I'm against fast food, but I eat KFC here and there. It's not, I kind of do want to go pretty hard on, and the reason I'm super anti-NATO is what's going on now, because to me, NATO's pushing the buttons. But I guess the last question is, if you could, or if you have the ability, because senators can go like Tulsi went to talk to Assad, if you get in, if you could propose a peace deal or at least some type of way for them to stop fighting, what would you do? I know leaving NATO is one, but is there anything else in customary law or like ideas that come to mind?
Definitely like formally backing out of NATO would be a good one. If we could just get rid of NATO altogether, I mean, it was created to combat the Soviet Union, which technically no longer exists. But is the Kremlin still a thing and the KGB still a thing?
It is.
So why are we even still in NATO to fight a communist red wave scare that doesn't exist anymore?
We're still in NATO, in my opinion, because countries are trying to make pacts with each other to increase global power. And there's people on top of global institutions who don't want to give that up. And some nations do want that protection. The hard part is, though, if NATO gets involved, there are other alliances other than NATO. People don't think of that. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the BRICS countries, which is like Brazil, Russia, China, all that, that's going to cause a problem because you have all these NATO countries who say we'll get involved, and then Russia will get involved. And then there's also the OIC. People don't know there's an Islamic variant of that. And I don't know where that's going to go. And I'm kind of really worried because Turkey's like in every single one. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Pick an alliance or just get out of all of them. Just get out of all of them. So
entangling alliances are no bueno for any nation, I'd say.
That's how I look at it. Use customary law to solve disputes. That being said, I am an ANCAP, but is there any other thing you propose if you could sit down, or like if you're part of Congress, like, all right, here's what we're going to negotiate with the Kremlin. Here's what we're going to negotiate with Zelensky's government, and kind of like push the thing. Like you do get in Congress and you're like, okay, I'm going to stop this. What would you?
You know what? How about if you put me in a room with Zelensky and Putin, I'd go, Zelensky, no more money for you. Putin, here's all the money we were going to give him. Fix your fucking pipeline and go away. You, good luck. See ya. Peace.
Nice. And I like that. I like that answer. Get out of NATO. What I would probably suggest is, and I'll also leave you with this, is I studied and people are probably annoyed with me on this, but I studied like how different warlords interact, not because I think they're good. They violate the NAP, but I wanted to understand how social cooperation is done in the worst common denominator instances. That's why I do it. That's why I look at Bloods and the Crips, and I think, to me, that's just as interesting as looking at Ron Paul videos, maybe even more so because people aren't in that sphere. What I found is when you get territorial, the best way to do it is actually not to try and come up with enlightenment values, but to make violence too expensive. That's why I said I like Bitcoin. It doesn't change morality, but it makes violence too expensive because of the limited supply of 23 million. What I would say is it would be great if we, Scott Horton, you, some people who get in Congress, eventually can sit down and say, look, if one side hurts the other side or someone gets hurt, then you have to owe an exuberant amount of money. Or if one side invades another side, then you have to pay a certain amount. That doesn't make anybody better morally, but it just makes strong incentives to do that. What do you think of like stuff like that?
I can get on board with that. That seems like all right. Like I don't know, but then again, like say, well, look back at World War I. Germany lost, and then they had to pay all this billions of dollars back to all these other countries, and it put them into debt, and then caused inflation and the shit we're going through now, basically. And then Hitler rose to power, created an army, and did all the things he wasn't supposed to do because of what Germany did, what they were told to do by Geneva Convention. Yeah. It wasn't Nuremberg. Nuremberg was World War II. Had been Geneva.
No, definitely. But yeah, what I'm saying is you just create strong incentives between both countries, and you pull the NATO countries out so that you find a way to find what people's incentives are. That's what I always say with criminals. People don't want to look at criminals. I'm like, look at what criminals' incentives are and find a way to make what they're doing too costly. Don't moralize to them. They're criminals. They don't care about morals. Same thing with presidents. Same thing with warlords, which maybe they're not that different. Same thing with defense contractors. These are not moral people. What you need to do is find a way to make things too expensive, make violence too expensive based on the allocated incentives they have. And you can look at what they're saying and what they're doing. So I think you're going to be awesome for Congress. I wish you all the best. Where can people find your stuff and how can they donate?
You can find me on Twitter at Kelts for Liberty. That's Kelts with the number 4. J Kelts for Congress on Facebook. And I haven't really got a donation page open up just yet. I got my roommate. He runs Twitch and makes websites. So he's working on one for keltsforliberty.org or something like that, where you'll be able to donate. And I'll post the links once it's ready to go.
Do a sneak peek. Can I pull this up?
I don't even have anything up yet, but you can pull up my Twitter.
Let's do that. So we got Jacob Kelts at Kelts for Liberty. Check him out. Growing in followers, 375. U.S. candidate for the House of Representatives, District 9, Michigan. All freedom, all the time for everybody. Got Ron Paul. We got some really, really cool gun updates, as you can see. 100%. Second Amendment. I like the thing here. Passports when government takes your right to travel and sells it back to you. Yeah, why do I need a documentation if I'm not a criminal to
right?
But that's pretty awesome right there. And yeah, you got the Dave Smith stuff going on. So this is pretty cool. And I will be putting this on Twitter. And we also have Jacob Kelts right here on Ballotpedia. So go check him out. And then you said you'll have keltsforliberty.org. So let me know when that drops. And I can
sir.
that out and even give you a donation. If someone was to say, hey, last thing, Jacob Kelts, what is your kind of catchphrase in 5 seconds? Like, what do you stand for? What would that be?
All the freedom, all the time for everybody.
Nice. I like it. Very, very reminiscent of a lot of really good libertarian candidates. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I think you're going to make a great addition to Congress. Even if you don't get in this time, keep going, keep going. I believe you will get there. And honestly, Michigan needs some good representation after Rick Snyder, after Whitmer. Let's get something that's at least decent. And you're pretty amazing. So you're the best candidate I've seen out of that whole state in actually forever in my lifetime.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate such kind words coming from you. And I will keep liking and sharing all the memes you keep posting, my man.
All right. So, guys, Jacob Kelts at Jacob Kelts for Liberty on Twitter. You need to go check him out. Like, whether you guys are patriots, whether you're disaffected liberals, whether you're libertarians in the sphere of classical liberalism, minarchism, paleo-libertarian, or you're an ANCAP like myself and Jake, definitely check out Kelts for Liberty because there are some important things we need to accomplish, like ending the wars, ending the drug war, actually respecting the Second Amendment, and other things like ending all of this crazy spending, or at least putting a curve on it. Do we need armed men and guns to tell us what to do? I think if you do, then that's the issue. That's the issue is a lot of people still think they need either their side to tell the other side what to do. They need the state to tell them what to do. And as long as we have that mentality, I think we're going to be stuck. But with people like you, it actually gives me hope for pushing freedom back and creating an America that is actually free.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I totally agree. Let's dial back the state and fucking bring back freedom. Not just some freedom. How about all the freedom?
Yes, all the freedom. That's what gets me about, both sides. They're like, oh, let's take a little bit off here. Let's take a little bit off here. Let's expand this or push this. We don't need to get rid of all of it. I'm saying, no, there's no way you're going to fix most of these systems. As far as I'm concerned, dialing back the whole thing or dialing back most of what's going on is the best idea. And I think most people are going to come to terms with that and agree. So once again, Jacob Kelts for Liberty. Check him out on Twitter. Get ready for his donation page. It is going to be up. And you can also find him on Ballotpedia. He is running for U.S. House to represent Michigan's 9th Congressional District. That's Michigan's 9th Congressional District. He's going to crush it, I think. He is absolutely flawless on all the issues, as we talked about here. So definitely be sure to check out his website. And thank you for tuning into the Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools for self-governance. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Kareem, and peace out, everybody.